So this is the collection here of what we're gonna do today. Welcome to day 2 of the XRT build series. Today, we're focusing on all the gearing. So we're gonna get diffs, gearing, and upper bulkheads to stiffen everything up. So let's get into it. Grab this, upgrades. We got a big collection of parts today, so let's open it up and see what we got. Look at that. Let's start with the M2C drive shaft flex system. When the chassis flexes, we won't actually bend the single drive shaft. That's pretty sweet. We've got some Vitavon out drives here, which come with the cups, which will last longer than the stock ones, which I'm very happy about. And this is where most of the magic is happening, where we've got our front, center, and rear diffs. These things are massive, like really hard to put in perspective. 1032, these will also work for the X-Max. Gorgeous. We're gonna move here to the bulkhead stiffeners. So that's the front and rear. And then as we move to the right, we've got our front and rear bulkheads so that we can also stiffen up this area so we're not chewing up teeth. And lastly, we've got our pinion and spur gear over here, which comes with an additional bearing support here, which allows for less flex and then more direct drive. These are also mod 1.5, as you can see there. We're not sure if we're gonna stick with this gearing 100% of the time, but we should be able to overdrive it quite a bit. I've also got a 20-tooth pinion here in case you wanna pop that in. So we're gonna try a couple of things. And then also we've got a nice aluminum gear case, which works with these gears. So let's get this in. It's easy to start with the front, disassembling that just to get the build rolling. We also got a bit of a win here. Just a quick test with the 10-tooth on the front upper bulkhead. We've got a perfect fit and no need for any shims, which is always a win. And the less shims you have to use, the better, because that means it's precise. Let's get this party started. Let's pop these wheels off. Boom. Yep. All right. Pinion's still absolutely brand new. That is the drive shaft. So comparing the two, they're almost identical and not that much heavier, so I'm pretty happy with that. We're going to definitely put in this sexy upper bulkhead. Whoo, look at that. Yo. So if we do a quick test here, let's find out if this is a nice fit as well. Look at that. So it looks like there is no shimming needed, which is fantastic. That's exactly what you want to see. No movement whatsoever. And so if we just did a quick test here, make sure everything fits nicely. That's a nice snug fit. And that tooth right in there is solid. And this, oh, it's a perfect fit. Everything's fitting perfect, so let's get the diff ready to install with the out drives. Make sure fluids are all good, everything's Loctited so we can install the bulkhead. Seat this in here. So on this end, we've got a male spline drive and a female spline drive. And we want to slide this in like so. We've got to Loctite these. So brand new fluids filled up nicely. Standard 100K fluid. These spiral drives are looking good. So per usual, you always want to make sure you get your Loctite in the holes. It looks like it's in, it is not in. And the last thing you want is no Loctite. And now we've got our Vitavon out drives, and they have a cup around them to make sure that the out drives don't split apart when they have maximum force on them. So you have the stock out drive on the left, and you can just see right away there's way more material. Now that's a smooth diff. Wow, what a freaking diff. This thing weighs a lot. That is crazy. Let's get her in. So we pop that in. Pop this on. And then we got the bulkhead cover. Let's go ahead and add some super lube. This thing is very smooth. It's very tight, no shims needed. I am very happy with the result. We're gonna leave the drive shaft out because we're replacing that with that one. And all that it is a pin on the end of this dog bone that can slide right in here once we get underneath this bad boy. We're going to put back the plastic pieces, get the front reinstalled, start working on the rear. Boom. Looking fresh. Got everything together. Front end's looking sharp. Time for the rear. Let's go. There we go, got the rear out. Now that the rear is apart, we can put together our diff and out drives, double check all the fluids, Loctite everything, and then we're going to go over our gearing because there's a slightly new configuration. Okay, let's go ahead and prep the center diff. So even though we have fluid in here, which comes from the factory, we are gonna go ahead and put in 20 million into the center only. We're gonna keep the front and rear stock. This is gonna help get more traction in the front tires without ballooning. Rinse and repeat. Let's go ahead and close that up. Pull this off, get this on, pop this in, and I want to Loctite this side. All right, here is the center diff, 20 million weight fluid, and this is the piece that goes on that connects for the drive shaft. So all stacked and ready to roll. Let's do the rear diff. And there is the rear diff. Stock diff, upgraded diff. Stock diff, upgraded diff. So this is the original Cush drive. And the way this looks to work is you pull this off and it reveals a pin. And this pin is very small and can break. Just knowing how diffs are and how intense the drivetrain will get abused, this thing is way too small to get put in here. Like the actual length itself isn't even full width. So what I'm going to do, instead of reusing this, I was kind of hoping Vitavon would include a pin, but they didn't. They were expecting you to use the original pin, but I don't like doing that. So a little trick that I got from my friend Chris is this. This is called piano wire, which you can pick up from the hobby shop for a couple of bucks. And you essentially have infinite amount of pins, okay? Like how many of these can you cut off? And I use these for the Arma 6S lineup. It also fits this guy right here, so it's a very common diameter. For you guys out there that wants to know what diameter I'm using, looks like 2.5 mil. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna quickly Dremel a piece off. So that's a much tighter fit. So that's exactly what I want. So the original Cush drive is actually shorter by 1/4 inch or so. We do need to use one of the original bearings. So we're gonna put that on first, then the D shape. This gives room for this guy. We're gonna leave the screw loose right now until we know where it needs to sit with the pinion. And then we're gonna get our pin in and we're gonna get it to receive it here. Ooh, that's a nice click. Get this bearing on and that's our assembly. Mod 1 versus mod 1.5. Essentially the gears are just so much thicker. This is gonna hold up. This will strip. I mean, it's night and day. Let's get this seated. We're also gonna get rid of this protector because I don't think it fits anymore. So with this setup, you have 3 bearings, okay? In the original setup, you only have 2 bearings and it had a plastic cover that held this in. So not only would you get flex, but you also would get flex on this rod, or if anything was to happen, you'd get a bent rod, which would chip a tooth. So now that we have the support, there's gonna be 3 points of contact, which is gonna make this extremely durable. When we put the new motor mount in, we can raise and lower the actual motor so that it fits with the desired pinion that we want. That alone took me a while to get through. So again, that's why we're doing this in parts, because you just wanna focus on getting the gears right and just doing the rear end, doing the front end. I think it just makes it easier this way, you know, rather than trying to do the knuckles and the suspension at the same time. It's too much. So let's try and fit these in. This fits this way. And then this seats down in here. Just gotta get it. So what I'm seeing here is that this 10 tooth is fairly tight once this is locked in. But the diff itself has a little bit of room this way, but I think that's okay because it's not really interrupting anything. If I had some shims, I would put one in there, but I don't. But I think that's okay because this is the main gear that you always want shimmed, because once this goes in, you see the transfer in the center all the way to the pinion. That's such an amazing thing. All right, this goes on first. I see. See, now that doesn't have any movement. So this is the kind of movement we don't want. This needs to be shimmed. We want to shim it this way so that it can engage the 10 tooth spiral gear in there. So let's just quickly test and see. Yeah, we still have some wiggle. This thing looks absolutely beautiful. Definitely don't want to run the rear diff without any shims. The front one fit perfectly, the rear one does need some shims. So we're gonna get this put back together and I'll just come back and shim this on Tuesday when I have everything. So let's build the rear end and then jump in to the drive shaft. it is just looking too good. All this Vitavon, all the Traxxas, the red is just stellar. Of course, we got this drive shaft to go in so that we can maintain some flexibility in the chassis without bending any drive shafts. So let's get this installed. All right. So essentially this is gonna fit upside down, pop through these holes and connect. Just sort of flops there until you clamp it down on this underside. So all right, let's pop some tires on. All right, yo, we did an absolute crazy build today. It's just at least 12 hours of just getting into it. And I'm very happy, but we're not done yet. Day number 3, we're doing all of the suspension because we've certainly added some weight to this and it is no joke. So we're gonna beef up the suspension, and then day 4, this whole thing is getting new electronics. So get subscribed, like, comment down below, because this build series is continuing. And, you know, at the end of this, we're gonna take this nice show truck and beat the shit out of it. So, let's go!